Coming up on Tech News Today, Facebook IPO. Does it stand for immediate poop out? Also, Yahoo may ditch Alibaba, and TPP is the new ACTA. More acronyms explained next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, May 18th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the easy way to sell your iPhone, iPad, iPod, or Android smartphone from your home or office so you can get the latest versions. Get a risk-free quote that's good for 30 days at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time.
All right, everybody, dance.
Yeah, it's dancing.
Oh, funny sub Friday. Just, funny for us, not for anybody
Funny
else.
Friday. I like Funny Friday.
We're just like, we're out of here. We're taking the day off.
You sure you don't want to right now? It's
Maybe
really
we
nice
should
outside.
do that for Memorial Day. That'll be our show. We'll put out a show on Memorial Day. It'll just be that.
So, yeah,
but they're going to know
Memorial
that.
Day, so we're not working.
If you put out like a 2-minute show, they're going to see it in their RSS feed. So you really need to add like 20 minutes of silence afterwards.
Yeah. Well,
so send your
As
outrage.
we've learned from the fateful April Fool's show,
Send your-
people
yeah.
don't like
People love
surprises.
jokes like that.
yeah, but people love John Cage
From Ally McBeal?
from Ally McBeal.
Let's talk about Mortal Kombat for a second.
Hey, guess
I went
what?
to the same place.
What does he have to do with this? Hey, do we have Rails today? Like
Facebook IPO'd today.
Is that what they did?
Wait a second.
Finally happened.
No.
That was so quietly. How did that happen?
didn't think it was gonna
$38.
happen.
$38 was the price. Mark Zuckerberg got an honorary hoodie from NASDAQ.
That's so
He
lame.
made a
Whatever
little
story was real.
statement and said, our mission isn't to be a public company. Well, that's a weird thing to say on New Day IPO.
Made a mistake then.
Our mission is to make the world more open and connected. He was saying, look, this is a great step, going public and all, but that's not what we're about. That's just a step along the way to making the world more open and connected by locking it down inside of Facebook.
Right.
Initial trading was delayed for 30 minutes. They experienced problems throughout the day. Through the vagaries of IPOs, which I don't claim to understand, some kind of dark art allowed it to open at $42, even though the initial price was $38. Traders, however, were unable to confirm changes or cancellations. So trading was kind of rocky. However, according to Dow Jones, over 200 million shares changed hands in the first hour, which put them on pace to become the most heavily traded IPO ever. Facebook's senior engineer David Garcia also led a team that hooked up the NASDAQ buzzer that Mark Zuckerberg pressed at the beginning of the day to a headphone jack that used Facebook's Open Graph API to turn the buzzer signal into a status update that said Mark Zuckerberg listed a company on NASDAQ.
That's pretty cool.
I think I saw the headline said the best humble brag ever. Listed a company on NASDAQ.
Did he give them his password to his account for them to be able to do
There's
that?
probably an API.
He just probably hit allow because he didn't read what they were doing anyway. So he pressed his walls off.
Right.
There you go.
Who reads all those
he's being
privacy
open.
settings anyway?
Zynga shares took a tumble, down $1.10 to $7.17, causing a trading suspension to kick in, a safeguard that kicks in if your stock is dropping too fast. So we're assuming this has to do with the Facebook IPO. Everybody said, oh, well, I was only buying Zynga because I couldn't buy Facebook. Or something.
Maybe I'm just playing NASDAQ Luddite here, but how does it take a tumble down from $1.10 to $7.17?
No, it dropped $1.10 of value,
okay.
and then it ended up at $7.17.
It was like $8 something.
So it was at $8.27.
Thank you.
Then it dropped $1.10.
Math today.
It's
on
what's for
TNT.
dinner. Facebook shares closed out at $38 in after-hour trading. The actual close was $38.23, but after-hour trading, it went right back to
Even
the open
Steven.
price. So if you bought at the $42 that it opened at on the market, you're screwed.
Well, we'll see what things look like down the road a bit. I mean, today almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's not
because it's crazy town. It surprises me that it didn't spike more than it did, though. I mean, it was
Zynga,
a tiny little
Zillow
bump.
all spiked
Yep.
and then went down below their open price. So does this good news?
whether they stayed steady, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, this is a long-term game. It's not like the fact that the IPO was today. It's not like the trading will stop forever now. It's like you had your chance. Facebook's going to be around for a pretty long time. We're going to see what happens with them.
Is that right?
I hear that. Yeah, the IPO thing is not just for one day.
Well, MySpace is still kicking, so if that's any indication.
They're not publicly traded.
Well, they're still kicking.
They're kicking up
Kicking
daisies.
and screaming.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Facebook bought something today with all their new money, too. They bought an app called Karma. And they didn't just buy it in the store, though. They bought the company that makes the app. And this is a social gifting app.
Yeah, it's supposed to, as the name suggests, it's kind of a goodwill generator. If I think Iyaz did such a good job on TNT this week, I could buy him something.
Some Chardonnay.
Yeah, I could have it sent to him, and because we're connected through Facebook.
Or a nice IPA.
Or a nice, something that Iyaz would like. Which is just, it's funny that today of all days, Facebook was not too busy to announce that they acquired yet another company. No, IPO is just part of the story here on Friday. We also bought Karma.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Facebook circa 2006 not have some sort of gifting thing, except it was just for GIF files where you could buy your friend a beer?
Yeah,
and it was like
it was
image
virtual,
of a beer.
Virtual gifts.
Yeah.
So
bring that back.
Yeah, but no, this is cooler. I want to buy actual things and have them sent and get actual. I want to get actual things. I don't want to have a graphic of
Maybe
a
they
beer.
should send you the animated GIF of the beer, and then it shows up at your door.
And then the real beer shows up.
Yeah.
Well, you can do both. I like that. They can combine them. Done. Samsung got 9 million pre-orders for the new Galaxy phone. Korea Economic Daily reported today that Samsung has received 9 million pre-orders for the Galaxy S3 and that their company's smartphone factory in South Korea running at full capacity, 5 million units per month. Of course, Galaxy S3 comes out May 29th. So we are seeing definitely iPhone-like numbers from Samsung with the Galaxy S3.
Yeah, in
People are excited.
Q2 of 2011, iPhone did 18.65 million units, so they're halfway there.
Now, wait a second. So this was from all the carriers, though. There's 100 global carriers that wanted to sell this phone already. So it's not like these are customer sales right away. These are the actual outlets that will be selling the Galaxy S3, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's the carriers that order this. These aren't pre-orders from customers.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then why are you asking me?
It's part of a show thing.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know the answer to that.
It's in an article.
So you're okay. So you're saying this is carrier pre-orders,
That's right.
not
These are
customer
carrier pre-orders. This is not a
Okay.
customer thing. That's not available right now. You can't go out and get a Galaxy S3. You can't order one right now, but the carriers did this. So the number 9 million sounds amazing, but these are 100 companies ordering this.
Mm-hmm.
Which is huge. Why are people so excited about the Galaxy S3?
It was an awesome phone. The presentation was a little
Well,
bit...
there's lots of awesome phones, though, but they don't get 9 million pre-orders.
But Samsung seems to definitely have... we saw this yesterday.
What's the magic sauce?
We saw that...
The Trippy video was the magic sauce.
Did
anybody watch the launch videos? Those were super trippy.
When it came to fragmentation, the Galaxy and Samsung lines had a ton of the Android market. We looked at that. Was that yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And they seem to definitely have the marketing power behind them that you still know, okay, there's a Galaxy series versus HTC has done the same thing where they're like, look, we're going to stick to the one. The Galaxy name is good enough, and their presentation was ridiculously large, and they are sponsoring the Olympics with this phone. I think they've got a lot of momentum that a lot of companies just can't do that right now. And Samsung's really done a really great job with Android in general. Some people hate TouchWiz interface, but back when Android was not super friendly, wasn't as polished as 4.0, Samsung kind of helped move Android along. So did HTC. A bunch of these companies did this, but Samsung's really been able to kind of get the people that go, oh, I don't want an iPhone. I want this thing because they have larger screens, just so many more features than I would ever expect this phone to have.
I think Samsung has done something really it's impressive when you compare Apple, when you compare iOS to Android, right? You go well, iOS is iOS. But then you think about what's the coolest Android phone? What's the coolest company? You do have a lot of choices. We talked about all of those different models and potential fragmentation yesterday. But Samsung is kind of like that top dog company. That's the company who makes the really good phones. And that's not necessarily to say that any other phones are not as good as Samsung. But I think in the public's mind, they're the Sony of Android phones.
Well, I think also
the old Sony,
the Galaxy S, this being the third iteration, wow, they're on the third one. They didn't kill it. This must be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because people did like the Galaxy S2 2 and the Galaxy S before it. I mean, it is a really good phone. All right, let's catch up with Yahoo now with their new CEO, Ross Levinson, temporary. He is an interim CEO. There's talk that they might actually finally remove their stake in Alibaba over in China.
Yeah, so this has been a very confusing few months between Yahoo and Alibaba and what is going on with them. All Things T has been following it very closely, and they report today that both Yahoo and Alibaba are set on a deal that will include a big share buyback to Yahoo investors. It'll set up Alibaba for an IPO, and they might make an announcement as soon as Monday. So the details are as follows. Obviously, Alibaba Group owns a variety of properties, e-commerce, B2B, online payment, etc. Yahoo has about a 40% stake in Alibaba. It's a very big stake. It's less than half, but it's a big stake. That stake is worth about $7 billion. If Yahoo sells about half of it, which they are reportedly ready to do, of that $7 billion, they will have to pay what's known as a long-term gains tax. It's about 35% of that total money. So it's quite a big chunk of change. However, after that tax has been taken out, of the $7 billion, they still have $4 billion or so. That remaining money could be used for Yahoo to buy back some of their own shares, which could lead to a shareholder dividend, make shareholders happy.
That makes Dan Loeb happy, right?
Exactly. And possibly money for future acquisitions. No one's necessarily saying, Yahoo has definitely been looking at this company and now they have the money to do that. But it's something that could be possible.
If they're
going to
rebuild into something new, they need to do some acquisitions.
That's right.
That is what Facebook is doing. That is what you see Google doing quite often. In fact, you see Apple doing it all the time. And Yahoo just hasn't been buying anything interesting.
Well, they've been really busy trying to stay afloat and doing the whole
hiring
musical
CEOs,
CEO chair thing. Yeah, so Yahoo has agreed, let's say this deal goes through as it's been reported to on Monday. Yahoo has agreed to sell the remaining 25% of its current holdings when Alibaba IPOs. Again, it's a confusing sort of moving money around, but Alibaba will actually have to borrow money from venture capital in order to basically buy Yahoo out of the stake they have in Alibaba. But this is all for an impending IPO that Alibaba would like to happen sooner than later. Now, we've talked about this a variety of times, and the story has changed depending on who's at the helm. Back in February, I think it was February, Alibaba spun off Alipay, and it became a spin-off company that Jack Ma, who's the CEO of Alibaba, owns. And Yahoo went, what? No, you can't do that. I mean, we own 40% share in this
Well, they
company.
did it without telling anyone. They didn't. Not only did they not tell Yahoo, but they also didn't tell SoftBank, which is another one of its controlling shareholders.
Yeah, there was an issue with that. At one point, obviously, Yahoo has really been on a roller coaster. Alibaba was considering taking over Yahoo with the help from private equity firms. That didn't pan out either. Now, when Scott Thompson, who was the CEO for four long months, yes, when he was on the throne, as it were, he visited China. Many think that he was helping a new deal along, kind of getting everybody on the same page. Let's make a deal. Let's make something happen. Now, interim CEO Ross Levinson probably doesn't have much to do with some of the goodwill that happened under Scott Thompson, but he's also announced some management changes. Just if you thought that things had settled down at Yahoo, they're still a little bit up in the air. Commerce leader Sam Schrauger is out. That was actually a Scott Thompson hire from PayPal, so not too surprising. Also, Scott Thompson's chief of staff, Martin Nichols, has been replaced by Michelle Prati, and a couple people are in. And Ross Levinson is only the interim CEO, so we're not even sure how long these people will stay. Mickey Rosen, who headed America's Media, is now running global media and commerce. And they've got a new head of marketing, Molly Spillman. So a lot of new people running important areas of Yahoo at this point. What this has to do with Alibaba probably doesn't really matter. If Yahoo and Alibaba have figured out something, all these people are kind of coming in after the deal's been done.
I wonder if those two events actually have anything to do with each other in the fact that Alibaba and Yahoo had really tenuous relationships to the point where Alibaba wasn't telling them what they were doing, wasn't telling Yahoo what's going on. I wonder if these moves, the management shifts at all were related to that, going, okay, look, we have new blood on our board. Everybody here wants to work with you guys. We want to make sure that the relationship's good, and let's split up now, because that's the best way to go for Yahoo, I think.
Well, yeah, and also just Scott Thompson's not here anymore, and these are people that he hired, and we don't necessarily know him. I mean, that kind of is a factor, too, of just, not that they're not capable, but sometimes people are hired because of past relationships.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor. Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle. You want the new iPad, latest iPhone, or Android smartphone? Sell your used ones, your used iPhone, your used iPad, your used Mac or smartphone, and get some cash to trade up. Go to Gazelle.com right now. Get a risk-free quote. Your quote's good for 30 days. So if you're like, well, I'm not ready to send it off quite yet, don't worry. Get the quote today. Because the gadget is probably not going to get more valuable. If by some chance it does, Gazelle will actually upgrade your quote, but they won't downgrade it. So lock in that quote while your gadget is probably at the peak of its value. It's not going to get more valuable, I'm just saying. Probably not. Quotes vary by model, so make sure you enter the correct data in there, what cables you have, what kind of hard drive, RAM, all that sort of stuff, and then get that quote and get some cash. You can get it by PayPal. You can get it by Amazon gift certificate. In fact, you get 5% more when you get an Amazon gift certificate. What's your gadget worth? Take a minute and go find out. It doesn't take you that long, and you might have some cash in your pocket soon for new gadgets. Go to Gazelle.com and get your risk-free quote today. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Microsoft says no Mango, no Marketplace.
No peace.
No cry?
I don't know if there's any crying involved.
Actually,
here.
you cry if you have no Mango. You're right, because you don't get the Marketplace.
You can't get any more access to apps. Now, Microsoft reminding folks via blog post, if you want apps for Windows Phone, you better get Mango. Now, they announced this way back on the 24th, but now they've said we are now doing the final work needed on this new requirement. So they thought, as they put in their words here, another friendly reminder. So here's the deal. If you want to be able to buy, download, or update apps from the Marketplace, you have to have Windows Phone 7.5. Microsoft has a checklist.
That's Mango, same thing.
Right. Microsoft has a checklist available to find out how you can do the update. And as far as I understand this, every Windows Phone out there can be upgraded to Windows 7.5. So now, there isn't any phone out there that will be left in the
that is
past.
capable, right?
That's
Every
correct.
Windows Phone ever sold can run Mango, but do they run it well?
Okay. Actually, I looked into that, Tom, and so there are actually 10. You want to talk about Android fragmentation versus Windows Mobile? There are 10 devices from between Dell, HTC, LG, and Samsung, and all of them are within the 1 gigahertz range with 512 megs of RAM, which coincides with the second generation of Windows phones running 7.5, which are all between 1 and 1.5 gigahertz with around 512 megs of RAM as well. So
Microsoft's locking down the specs has paid off?
Well, perhaps. I mean, the only real difference between these is the megapixels of the cameras, the front and rear. The gyroscope and compass is a difference that happened between the first and second generation of phones. But actually, considering the list is only 10 phones, I think it's not going to be as much of an uphill battle as if, Google, who absolutely could not say, hey, upgrade everybody to Froyo, Gingerbread, ICS, whatever.
Microsoft, they also put up a post a while ago, on the 24th. Why were they doing this? Because a lot of people are like, why would you bother? Why would you want to make everyone upgrade? They're just saying that apparently the marketplace is growing too fast, and this is their quote. It now has over 80,000 apps, and requiring Windows 7.5 is a part of a larger effort aiming at improving the performance of the marketplace and security. So they're looking to make sure their marketplace is safe and secure. And apparently Windows 7.5 or Windows Phone 7.5 is the way to do that.
So Windows Phone 7 wasn't safe and secure?
Not as the marketplace wasn't as secure as this. But by the way, if you don't upgrade, you'll still be able to browse the marketplace. You will not be able to.
Oh, that's
do
just as
anything.
good.
You can look at the things you have.
See it.
Well,
I get
it'll
that.
tell you what to do. You go,
They're basically saying, go to the marketplace, look around, see what you're missing as an input.
And then you'll
The other thing is, it's not like your phone's going to break. If you have apps already on your phone, again, it'll still work. It's not. You just won't be able to update anything. So you can. It's not going to destroy anything.
You know, it'd be nice as a seamless thing where you don't even know. You go to the App Store and you go to download an app, and the app's like, hey, it requires some, like Linux does, some dependencies. Happens to be a new operating system. We're installing that.
You know Microsoft would get so much hot water if they did. You're forcing us to upgrade without our knowledge. You're off. Microsoft can barely win. So this is probably...
No, they can't win no matter what they do.
This is probably... I mean, they're going to get some flack for saying everyone has to upgrade to take advantage of the marketplace. But the more I look at it, the more it makes sense, which is they've got a security issue. Well, Microsoft is, if they don't fix security issues, they get in a lot of hot water. So they're like, look, we've got a possible security issue. We're not going to play around with that. We're going to fix it and require you to run Mango. And if you don't want to run Mango, that's fine. You just won't be able to use the marketplace.
Yeah. Hopefully you're on at least 7.0.7403 and you don't have those fraudulent certificates.
It's weird to think of a cell phone operating system forcing everyone to upgrade. Apple doesn't force you to upgrade. They just kind of bully you by having new phones that are older phones not really be able to run the newer operating systems as they get older, which Microsoft has avoided here, which is cool. And then Android's the other side of it, where they're saying, where it's like, well, we can't get every piece of hardware to run our newer operating system.
So they call it Mango, but really it's 7.10 point something, right? So it's actually not. 7.5 is like a marketing term. And the way that I see it is, this is kind of like a critical update. And so those... Well, I guess you're right. At least on the desktop Windows side, they're not forced on you, but they're highly recommended to be installed.
Why couldn't they do this with Internet Explorer 6?
Yeah, well...
If they could say,
because
look, the Windows
broken
Marketplace...
every lame accounting application ever written in
Java. The Windows
Java.
Marketplace app is insecure on versions older than 7.10, so we're not going to allow it to run if your operating system is too old. Do the same thing.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't think they're upsetting as many people.
Well, yeah,
Windows
they
Phone.
have, you're right, they have more customers.
Well, considering there are 10 phones, they're upsetting at least 10 people.
Their low market share is an advantage.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
So all 10 of you, update.
Today, RIM and Motorola submitted an updated proposal for the 4FF Nano SIM. That's the even smaller SIM card that is being debated. We talked about this previously on Tech News Today. Apple has a proposed standard that they're sort of fronting for a big coalition of people, and RIM has a proposed standard that they are bringing forward in cooperation with Nokia and Motorola. They were arguing back in March that the Apple one would get jammed, and then they took a vote, and all the people who are part of the coalition with Apple voted that it wouldn't get jammed, that the Motorola one would get jammed, and vice versa. So it was all on party lines. It looked like this was not going to be resolved, and we might even get two competing microSIM standards. But today, RIM and Motorola submitted an updated proposal that is 80% Apple's design. They just took that design that Apple had, and they put 20% of their own design in as a compromise position. The one thing that they changed of their design was to say, we're going to make sure that the contacts on the SIM card are in the same place so that it's backwards compatible with the largest version of the SIM that has ever been used. That was in Apple's design. It was not in Motorola and RIM's, because RIM said, you know what? We don't care. So what if it can't be used in big SIM cards? That's just old-fashioned, and people should just have to get used to it. What they're also doing is adding a notch that allows you to pop it in without using a tray. Now, Apple likes to have a tray, but not everybody does. And so Apple's kind of against the notch. They say it drives up the cost of the silicon to include that notch. But RIM is hoping that they can compromise.
See, the notch actually makes it kind of look like a micro SD card. And I like how those like pop in and eject.
Yeah, that's pressure. Exactly that behavior that RIM is pushing here. Now, interestingly, Nokia didn't make this proposal with their friends. It's just RIM and Motorola.
Well, they're too busy counting how much money and how many days are on the calendar and wondering when it's going to run out.
What?
I'm joking.
Counting the days?
Darren's saying that Nokia's...
They've got bigger fish to fry. They got more important things.
Oh, they're running out of cash. We'll find out about that later.
What kind of form factors to use?
They're trying to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Side note here, GameStop Mobile, speaking of SIM cards, is going to start selling SIM cards. GameStop will have their own MVNO on the AT&T network, $55 a month for unlimited data and voice.
That seems to be like the going rate, anywhere between 45 and 55. Everybody's creating an MVNO. When are you coming out with yours, Tom?
Oh, I've had mine out for a while.
Oh, nice.
You
can only buy it at Spectacle Fest, though, can you?
Unlimited data?
Unlimited data as long as I'm using it.
Sounds like a really good deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal for me.
And I can only call you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Can I borrow your phone? Are you on my MVNO? Great. Awesome. Cyrus Fairvar has an excellent write-up on Ars Technica today about something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, if you've heard of ACTA, the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement, and you know about its copyright provisions, this will sound very familiar. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is a secretly negotiated free trade agreement which has a commitment, quote, to ensure an effective and balanced approach to intellectual property rights among the TPP countries. The latest rounds of negotiations include 9 countries: Australia, Brunei, Chile, Malaysia, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Vietnam, and the United States. Japan, Mexico, and Canada are sort of circling on the outskirts trying to get into the negotiations. We only have one leaked version of this, whereas with ACTA, we've had several versions made public that have allowed people to debate it. And it took a long time to get those versions made public. At the same point in ACTA's history, there were no public versions available either. There was one version leaked last year, almost over a year now, in 2011, that included the following provisions. All signatories would have to agree that copyright terms in their country would be life plus 70 years minimum, and that the corporate rate would be 120 years. That's what we have in the United States, but it would force everyone else that is a signatory to have that term as well. Temporary copies would be treated as copyrightable. So this would affect services like Pandora. If you don't have a license that allows you to make a copy in the cache, you could be found violating. And it just really makes it difficult to provide services over the internet. They also require that signatories ban anything that circumvents DRM and expands it beyond our own DRM to anything that enables or facilitates circumvention of DRM, which a lot of people think could be broadly interpreted to mean a website that helps
with
you
information
learn about that sort of thing. And there's no mention of fair use or public domain in the leaked document. So there's no provisions that would encourage a country to provide exceptions for fair use and public domain. It's only been shown to the industry trade advisory committees other than the governments involved. So they're saying, look, we're getting advice from the stakeholders here. Don't worry. But the Industry Trade Advisory Committee has members like AT&T, Verizon, the RIAA, Cisco. There is no EFF involved there. There's no public knowledge. In fact, there's no non-corporate stakeholders at all. No one on the public side.
Acting on behalf of the consumers.
Exactly. So they're doing this in secret with corporations as a way to create a free trade agreement, which is great, but then force countries to have a minimum copyright standard that's similar to the United States, or in some cases a little broader than what we have in the United States, and it would make it very difficult for any of these countries to change their laws if, say, we decide that, you know what, there is no evidence that we need 70 years, because there isn't any evidence that we need 70 years of copyright protection to encourage innovation, and we decide to roll that back to, say, 14 years, which studies have shown encourage innovation. We couldn't do it if we signed this agreement. We're locked in.
So the way I see this, right, these corporations get to meet in secret and come up with trade agreements. Well, then, you know, you've also got consumers that could potentially meet in secret and not have to abide by those. Just
Actually,
saying.
that's sadly not the way it works.
Well,
I wish it did.
Little secret meetings, not going to let anybody else know what's going on.
Well,
there are
people
secret
can have
sides
secret
of the
meetings
internet.
to decide to break the law anytime. We could do it right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're going to circumvent the law, though. Just means that we're agreeing to break it together. I don't think that's really.
I think that's called
the end
conspiracy
goal.
to defraud. Is that close?
Something like that. It's a conspiracy of something. I'll tell you that.
What's going on here is that the World Intellectual Property Organization, almost 10 years ago now, tried to get something like this put in place in public. And because they had all the public stakeholders like the EFF, like consumers unions, and electronics companies involved, it was killed. So they went to ACTA, and they tried to do it in secret. That was dragged out into the light. Once people found out the provisions in it, it has now not only been changed quite a bit to be much less drastic, but Europe looks like they won't sign it. So they've gone on to this, say, well, if Europe's the trouble, let's do it in the Transpacific Partnership. Let's try to force copyright laws on the world anywhere we can. That seems to be what's going on.
I mean, it seems like theoretically they're trying to harmonize the laws in some way. Like, okay, look, in the UK, certain rights have expired, so certain things are in public domain. In the United States, they're not. So I could see it being, from the corporate standpoint, you're like, look, now I know I can market to everybody. I have a reason to go globally. Because, I mean, when you're talking about internet stuff, it's everywhere all the time. This is pretty broad. This kind of scares me. The idea of, like, okay, if I linked to a site that links to a site that links to a site, am I going to get in trouble for something? What if I don't even know where this link goes? I mean, like, let's say the chain is 4.
Yeah.
You basically make a criminal out of everybody because hyperlinks work. So, I mean, it's this kind of stuff needs to be thought about before this is, I guess, signed on.
And you bring up a really good point. Harmonization of the laws. They're big, like, don't you want us to have harmonized laws? Don't you want us to have the same protections and make it? Yes, we absolutely do. But we want reasonable laws, too.
Yes.
And what's happening is they're like, look, we're making harmonized laws. We're not going to tell you what they are until we've enacted them, and it's too late to complain. And we're going to make them as overreaching and favorable to our industry as possible. Is that okay? Is that what you want? Isn't that what you want?
I would love to harmonize towards the consumer-friendly stuff. We report about that sometimes. Like, there's a net neutrality thing over there. We're going to keep that nice and clean. The customers are protected. Why aren't those the ones being harmonized? Let's go to that side.
Anyway, you'll probably be hearing more about the Transpacific Partnership. On May 9th, 30 legal academics wrote a letter to the U.S. Trade Representative Ron Kirk to express their concerns and disappointment at the lack of public participation. Now, all these academics understand that trade agreements do need to be done partly in secret. But copyright law doesn't need to be done in secret. There are certain parts of the trade agreement that are sensitive, and there's negotiations that have to happen. And if you expose your negotiating position publicly, that hurts the negotiation. And these legal academics understand it. What they say is we need to have all of the stakeholders actually in the room, and we need to make it as public and transparent as possible.
And when you say stakeholders, you mean anyone that, can have a copyright.
Yes, exactly. Or
So
at least
like
someone
all of
speaking on
us.
your behalf.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't
move
feel
on.
so represented.
No copyright law without representation. It's not as catchy.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the news feed. Facebook raised billions today, as we mentioned, and that means it's time for a lawsuit.
Yay!
That's such a small amount. A class action lawsuit filed today against Facebook says the company invaded their privacy by tracking their behavior online via like buttons, and they just want $15 billion of the billions raised. That's all.
It's actually a pretty small amount.
Yeah, relatively speaking.
That's probably why they had the IPO.
Seems fair.
You can give Instagram $1 billion. Give me 15 times as much.
I am a user. I have major network. Bloomberg reports that Steve Jobs had worked closely on the redesigned iPhone. So people are putting this together with the reports that the next iPhone will have a 4-inch screen or larger, which would mean that if you really think about it, then Jobs went back on that whole opinion that he supposedly have that no one's going to buy a larger phone.
That's a lot of hooks a lot of the blogs
This
have.
is the same guy
It's
that
like
said
Mad
nobody would watch
Libs
video on a
for
little
Apple.
screen.
Just put it all into a pot and say something.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to say something crazy, though, right? Microsoft's Windows phones are outselling iPhones.
What?
It's happening
No.
in China. But the source is Microsoft. Microsoft says Windows Phone has 7% of the market compared to iPhone's 6% of the market in China. Android, by the way, is laughing because they have 69% of the Chinese market. So
Yeah. In other words, neither iPhone or Windows Phone sell very well in China.
We're scraping for second.
Yeah. Analysts are taking note of Nokia's diminishing cash reserves, right, Darren? I started to read
Yes,
yours.
they
I'm
are.
sorry.
They are taking note about the fact that the cash reserves of their spending is continuing, and the company could actually spend its entire 4.9 billion euro piggy bank in the next couple of years. Nokia has burned through 2.1 billion euros over the past 5 quarters, and so the analysts are thinking that Nokia might actually go ahead and spend another 2 billion in every 3 quarters consecutively and
Doesn't
run
look
out.
good for them.
Oops.
It really doesn't. Error 37. That sends shivers up some of your spines. It brought Blizzard to its knees before you, begging forgiveness. Blizzard has apologized officially in public for issues surrounding the launch of Diablo 3 related to server problems that caused many users to get an error message instead of a tale from Deckard Cain, which is what they wanted. Blizzard also announced it will delay the launch of its real money auction house in Diablo 3. The auction house was supposed to launch May 22nd. But while you're waiting, just stay a while and listen to a tale.
According to a new Relic study, this is the tale. Facebook is the king of web transactions, processing 60% of the total and handled 3 times as many as the second place, which isn't even Google. It's authorized.net. Google's checkout was 5th, what was found to be the fastest payment getaway. So fastest, not necessarily most adopted.
Reuters reports GM decided to drop advertising on Facebook after a Facebook presentation about paid ads did not convince GM to stay. Now, GM found that Google AdSense was more effective for the company. And sources also tell Reuters that GM's move isn't permanent and the company could go back to paid ads on Facebook in the future.
Apple announced that its main U.S. data center will be powered entirely by renewable energy by the end of the year. And Apple will be using solar cells, a solar tracking system, and will build biogas fuel cell plants later this year.
When you said Apple announced its main U.S. data center will be powered entirely by, I was like, elves?
Unicorns?
Reindeer?
Yeah.
Jackalopes?
No.
Just renewable
Yeah.
energy.
Renewable jackalopes.
Let's check.
Jackalopes have better things to do.
They do, really. They shouldn't be harnessed like that. It's cruel. Let's check the randomizer.
Oh,
Not the
that's
calendar.
wrong.
That truly was random.
The randomizer.
This is what happens when we don't all drink beer, apparently.
I know,
We have a
right?
really
This is
sloppy
awful.
show.
Wait. Who's doing Sober Friday? I'm not.
Darren's perfect. In a clever bit of technological legerdemain, as they say in Ars Technica, Stanford University has combined historical research with mapping to bring you sort of a Google Earth of the Roman Empire. A cross-disciplinary team created something called Orbis, the Stanford Geospatial Network Model of the Roman world. You can use it to determine how long it would actually take using Roman technology in Roman times to travel from any point in the Roman Empire to another, as well as calculate the cost of transporting goods and people.
I love this.
And why is that?
Why do I love it?
Yes.
I just like the history lesson aspect of it. It allows you to appreciate what you have.
I like the different kind of
Things used to take a really long time.
That's a good way to put it. I was like, this is old, this is historical, I'm not going to do this.
Well, you don't like history.
You hated
I hate
history,
history.
in high school.
I know, I'm doomed to repeat it, so
Yeah,
I'll live it when it
You
happens.
don't have to like it.
No.
That's fine.
You can choose speed options. How cool is that? You can travel by foot with an army, with a pack of animals, by an ox cart.
I immediately was like, there needs to be a game built on this.
Yeah,
Like,
no
can you
kidding.
imagine some sort of Age of Empires civilization?
That's exactly where my head went to. I was like, oh, this is so AOE.
With the actual real facts underlining it. So when you send that cart, it's not just like, oh, I clicked over here and it's immediately there. It's like, that's going to take 7 daes.
The Oregon Trail kind of already did that.
Yeah, kinda
Roman
did.
Empire Trail.
Where you can die of dysentery.
Yeah, I'm
You
sure
too
there's something
can go to
worse
Rome.
than
Please,
dysentery.
dysentery
There's got to be
wasn't
something more
invented yet.
Roman than dysentery. Exactly. I love this. So check it out. I believe you can get to it at Orbis, orbis.stanford.edu. Let's.
Can I do it? Can I do it?
What's on the calendarizer?
Yes. Microsoft's buy a PC and get a free Xbox 360 deal is returning for students on May 20th. If they're in either the U.S. or Canada anyway, U.S. students who purchase a qualifying PC worth $700 or more will get a 4-gigabyte Xbox 360 for free. Canadian students, this starts on May 18th by purchasing a PC worth $600 or more. TechCrunch Disrupt Hackathon is happening this weekend, preceding the Disrupt Conference, which runs Monday through Wednesday in New York City. SpaceX Dragon mission set for tomorrow, streaming live via NASA's own video portal, but you have to get up early or stay up late.
Oh, I know. Like 2 a.m. for us, right?
Yeah, the launch is 4:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it's an instantaneous launch window, which means that they need a perfect launch time, and if anything goes wrong, then they have to reschedule for May 22nd.
They can't delay an hour. They have to delay.
Right. If there's
3 days.
weird weather at Cape Canaveral, it's
right.
getting delayed. But we're hoping for the best. Samsung Focus 2 Windows Phone running with LTE capabilities is arriving on AT&T Sunday the 20th for $50. The CEOs from Apple and Samsung, they're kind of a big deal, and they're supposed to talk some patent settlement stuff because they've been squabbling quite a bit. That's happening on Monday, the 21st. And finally, Freedom to Connect, which is a conference devoted to preserving and celebrating the essential properties of the Internet, also a very big deal, will be held on the 21st and the 22nd in Washington, D.C.
All right. Now let's check what's incoming. Checking a lot of things today. First is a video mail from Terry, who helps us to pronounce a few Japanese words.
AT&T crew, this is Terry in Tokyo. I just wanted to give you a little pronunciation tip when it comes to the name of the company in Japan that bought into Pinterest. The name is Rakuten. That's Rakuten. And here's a bonus Japanese language pronunciation tip. I think it's too late in the States for anybody to pronounce this correctly. But, when you go into the little airless room and you're singing.
Airless?
And, something like My Way with a bunch of friends and you had a little bit too much to drink. Well, that's called karaoke.
So suffocating?
It's not called karaoke. It's karaoke.
All right.
That's what it sounds like when I'm doing
Anyway,
it.
I love the show. I listen to it every time you guys produce one. Thanks a lot. And sayonara.
Thank you, Terry. That's awesome. Thanks for
That
helping
was
us out with the
awesome.
Rakuten. I'm saying
I don't think we were too far off, but Terry's definitely got.
Yeah.
She's got the emphasis on the right syllables.
That was brilliant. Although you scared me with the airless room. I was like, am I getting shoved out the airlock? Oh, karaoke. Yeah, I think she's right too. I think we're not going to get people to pronounce karaoke right.
Having been to Japan, I realized, it's not karaoke. It's karaoke.
Yeah.
But it's still easy to revert back
and
to.
it's hard to break the pattern
slang.
because everybody looks at you like you're like some kind
you're
of
that
snotty.
guy. Yeah.
Like,
It's like saying croissant.
Nicaragua.
You're like,
Yeah.
people are like, stop it. It's
Yeah.
a croissant.
It's funny which things like we require to pronounce correctly and which things we're like, oh no, if you pronounce that correctly, you're a douche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a snob.
Or a
You
snob.
mean douche?
Yes, see? Dozhd. It's Russian for rain. Matthias wrote us an email from Stockholm and said, regarding the Android fragmentation story you discussed yesterday, I feel that I want to add to it from a developer standpoint. I'm in a small startup where we have a mobile app both for iOS and Android. Apple have really done all they can to make development as easy as possible. They think about things like screen sizes, doubling it evenly so that it scales automatically and you don't have to have multiple layouts. He goes on to praise them. He says, on Android, I have to work with relative layout managers, percentage resolution, scaling of images, different screen sizes. Goes on to criticize that. He says, to sum it up, I have fun, and it's smooth coding for iOS every time. Every time I have to update the Android app, I end up on the floor hugging myself and crying.
Oh.
Now, we're going to get some Android developers writing in disputing the
Matthias
difficulty.
is also an Android developer.
I
So
know.
I mean,
So he's just saying, look, you know what? He's not trying to be a fanboy. He just says it's harder.
I hope he has a comfortable floor. That's
Or
what I'm concerned
Android
about.
developers love themselves more
On the floor.
on the floor.
Rolling
They
on the floor
feel
already.
more achievement.
Yes.
Is that true?
you know, Gina Trapani was the guest host on iPad Today yesterday, and she is a developer who works both in the Android world and the iOS world. And she had a really good comparison where she said iOS is so much more cut and dry in so many ways. But as a developer, it's so much more fun being on the Android side because it's more of a community of people who can look at things from different ways and, hey, maybe we should approach it this way. And it's not like following, the 10 Commandments type of a thing like it is in the iOS world. So that's interesting, too.
So what Matthias is saying is, I like to have it simple. I don't want to have all of these options if it makes it more complicated. And what Gina's saying is, sometimes when you have it more complicated, it means you get to do more fun stuff and hack around. So it's just a different perception.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the email, Matthias. Appreciate that. You can email us too. TNT@twit.tv is the place to go for that. And you can also submit stories for our consideration on our subreddit. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is the place to do that. Not only submit them, but vote them up or down. Let us know which ones you actually want us to talk about most or don't want us to talk about most on the show. TechNewsToday.reddit.com. We appreciate everybody who helps us out there. Darren Kitchen, always good to have you in on Fridays. What's happening with the Hack 5 these days?
Well, we've been doing a huge series on proxies and SSH tunneling and things like that. So on 11.13, we're talking about persistent SSH tunnels in Windows and Linux, local versus remote forwards, and a whole bunch of really fun stuff. We got a whole new whiteboard thing. We're really breaking down theory. It's
excellent.
Fun.
Check it out, HAK5.org. And don't forget, if you like something that you see on the show, we hope you like at least one or two things a week. Send it to us. Let us know for the best of show. TNT@twit.tv and put the subject line best of so we can file those away for our best of show at the end of the year. That, for instance, is not something I would recommend in the best of show.
And now that you did
Mispronouncing
that, maybe we should
exactly
start
the show with that.
I'm not putting that in. But thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv. And you can just start us all over again on Monday with a whole new show. Julio Ojeda Zapata will join us then. We'll see you, hopefully, if we survive the weekend.